Alright guys, it's been 45 minutes, we're still in the tavern, and no one has even introduced themselves yet. Hi everyone, I'm Elle, I'm a Libra, and I like long walks on the beach. No, I mean, not like that. What do you want to do? I have run out of dice for my tower. You see, the trick is to use the d6s first. Okay, whatever. What about you? Ooh, I seduce the dragon. There is no dragon in this game. I seduce the dungeon? Do a straight d20 roll. Nat 20. Fine. The dungeon blushes at you, portraying it is open to your advances. Is this how you guys think we play D&D? Hello, adventurer. If you've been sent this video, you might be about to explore the dangerous and magical world of Dungeons and Dragons. You might have already played D&D, have just tangentially heard about it, or maybe even watched others play. This is all very helpful in giving you context, but how do you actually begin navigating, interacting, and role-playing in this story world? In this video, we're going to break down what exactly happens when your group sits down and the game actually begins, walking you through it step by step. We'll explore how to use your character sheet to roleplay and interact with the world, collaborating with the dungeon master and the other players along the way. Ready? Let's roll. Part 1. Before the game begins. Before jumping in, make sure your group has had some form of a session 0. This is where you would discuss the campaign's tone, house rules, and your character's place in the setting and the story. If you want a guide in character creation and writing your own backstory, follow this link. During this session, you want to talk with the DM and the other players about your character's build, possibly changing elements like their species or background to cover areas that the party might be lacking in. During this time, your DM might share some house rules they plan to implement, like a change in health restoration or other homebrew elements. It would also be smart to discuss tone, themes, phobias, and most importantly, consent. This could be as simple as asking for the media and literary influences of the campaign, or discussing certain situations and experiences that you might feel uncomfortable with. This could include limiting descriptions of injury or gore to what is tolerated between player-on-player or player and DM interactions. This may feel over the top or maybe even limiting, but remember, D&D is about collaborative storytelling. Your role is to make choices for your character, working with your party towards shared goals, whilst interacting with the world the DM presents. If all this has made sense so far, do you feel like leaving a like? Maybe hitting the subscribe and bell button whilst you're down there? I just rolled a natural 1, so I can understand if you don't feel enthusiastic about that. Part 2, starting the game session. As you sit down to begin your first session, make sure you have everything that you might need. This could include drinks and snacks, your character sheet and pencil if you're using a paper sheet, or logging into and preparing in digital tools like D&D Beyond or Roll20. If playing in person, you might need a miniature of your character. Finally, you'll need dice. There are digital options on D&D Beyond and Roll20, but physical math packs are always more fun. The game will most probably begin with the DM setting a scene. They might share a brief history of the campaign world, situating the player characters in it, or describe a localized setting like a tavern where you, as the characters, are gathered. They might even drop you straight into an encounter. Try to pay close attention during this introduction, as there will most likely be important information and NPCs introduced, and the DM will have been preparing this for quite a while. As this concludes, they may utter the immortal words, "What would you like to do?" inviting you to begin interacting with the story world. Part 3, interacting and role-playing. D&D is all about immersing yourself into a character, but it's also completely fair to feel overwhelmed by the countless choices. The trick here is to think in 2 simple questions. The first is, if I was in this situation, what would I do? If you're walking into a bar or tavern for the first time, would you go to the bar to chat with the barkeep, sit down and listen in on the locals, or simply bury your head into a book? This question stops you from being oversaturated in choices, perceiving the encounter from a grounded human perspective instead of distance and top-down like a board game. Once you're calibrated, you can then ask, what would my character do? You should contemplate if your character would take the same actions as yourself or follow a different path. This is when you should consult your character sheet. If the interaction is social or character-based, for instance, talking to the party around a tavern table, you can consult your traits, bonds, flaws, as well as your alignment. This will guide how you begin to interact with the world and the characters who inhabit it. Don't feel like you're not playing D&D right by not putting on a voice or immediately delivering overtly compelling monologues. Your enjoyment is the main priority right now, and those elements will become easier to instigate the more you play and learn about your character. A helpful trick I've picked up is, rather than doing a voice, just do an impression. Odds are it will be far from a perfect rendition, but that's the point. An impression will be original to you, whilst having little vocal intricacies and flourishes that doing a vague accent simply would not. D&D is most enjoyable when players work together, mitigating each other's weaknesses by playing to their own character's individual abilities. When you're in an encounter, whether that be social or combat, it's best to look at your skills, features, equipment, and spells. These will dictate what you can utilise and the actions you're most likely to succeed at. For instance, a bard might feign an injury with a deception check, whilst the ranger uses their proficiency in stealth to set a ranged ambush from the foliage. You're free to discuss your plans in and out of character, but be cautious about metagaming. This is when you compel your character to act in ways or with information that they wouldn't have in the story world. For instance, the DM might tell the ranger they've spotted an ambush, but the bard with a lower passive perception wouldn't know about that until the ranger's player shares said information. This goes the same for out-of-game knowledge. You might be an engineer in the real world, but your barbarian character wouldn't know about the structural complexities of a bridge unless they rolled a very high intelligence or wisdom check. Part 4. Resolving actions. In D&D, if the players are actors, the DM is a writer-director. They facilitate what happens with the outcomes of the choices you make. In terms of interacting physically with the environment, you might ask the DM a question like, "What does the tavern look like?" which will invite a perception check. Or you could declare an action, "I want to climb that wall," inviting an athletics check. As long as you have the capacity to do so, you can take as many actions as you like over a D&D session. What you choose to do as an action is essentially unlimited, from casting spells, utilising tools and weapons, assisting your allies, or improvising something completely original. Try not to think in actions though. Instead, think about how you would use the skills, features, tools, and spells at your disposal. When you think in actions, it can quickly become formulaic and tedious, but if you think narratively, the experience is a lot more enjoyable. Actions are only there to interpret what you want to do into a quantifiable time frame and difficulty, not for you to have to pick from time after time. Sometimes your DM might initiate initiative when a time-sensitive situation arises. This is usually used for combat encounters, but can also be used for movement, like navigating a rapid or sledding down a mountain. To commence initiative, you roll a d20 and add your initiative modifier, creating a turn order for your party and their potential antagonists. During initiative, on your turn, you can use an action, bonus action, and movement in any order. This usually has to beat a difficulty or armor class, with a DC 10 being moderately achievable and a D20 rarely succeeding. On a personal note, as enjoyable as the successes are, the failures are also brilliant. They help raise the stakes and add brilliant character motivations. Failures make you have to quickly reassess a situation, or could even mean the loss of a beloved NPC. Part 5. Wrapping up and maintaining momentum. You will likely have already discussed with your players and the DM how long the game sessions will usually last. A few minutes before the session ends, the DM should signal that the session is coming to a close. This is when the DM should ask if there are any actions or interactions the players want to make before the game session ends. As a player, this is the time to instigate anything you want to pick up at the beginning of the next session. You should also take notes about what has occurred during this session, such as key events, NPCs, or looted treasure. This helps you stay engaged with the ongoing story without forgetting important plot points. Hopefully, you'll have some form of communication to talk with your group between sessions, to reminisce over all the things you've experienced together, and to potentially think up tasks, a direction to head, and a strategy for the larger overarching plot. And with that, congratulations! You have just learnt how to play Dungeons & Dragons. Fundamentally, playing D&D is about teamwork, imagination, and rolling with the unexpected. Don't worry about being perfect, just focus on enjoying your time and creating a great story with your friends. Thank you so much for watching to the end. You are a hero just for that. If this walkthrough has been at all helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could leave me a like and possibly send this video to any new players you know to help them understand the game of D&D better. If you're just starting out in D&D or you have any questions whatsoever, leave a comment and I'm sure somebody in the D&D community or myself will start a dialogue with you. Also, please don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so I'm not lost in the depths of the algorithm. Finally, this video here is a walkthrough on how to create your first character sheet for D&D, whilst this video features real-world survival tips that your adventuring character would probably know to help inspire you further. Now, grab some friends, some dice, and together create an epic tale for the ages. Adventure awaits.